Hi, it's Dwyer. It is Friday, March 14th, 2025. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. BettingAngle.us, a free site. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, let me point out, there's some interesting groups online, right? Let me just say, I have the utmost respect for Alexander Usyk, long-time subscribers, and I mean subscribers going back longer than 5 years. Know that I was talking about Usyk being a force in the heavyweight division before he even left the cruiserweight division. Right? I'm a big fan of Usyk. I know who he is. He is a gifted athlete, one of the best in the entire sport, certainly pound for pound. He moves extremely well. He has an excellent straight left. He's a southpaw. He can mix it up, right? He can make it so that you can't find him in the ring. He is defensively blessed. But I need for folks to understand that being the king comes with a price, right? We're going to look at you. We're going to see where you might have challenges. We're going to ask questions like whether a mandatory has a shot on you. Canelo understands it, right? Canelo, for some reason, with this new generation of boxing fan, people in their early 20s, is running into people who actually want a Jaime Munguia to beat him, and Edgar Berlanga to beat him. Right? Canelo understands this comes with the territory. He could clean out 168, become undisputed. And a group is going to be unimpressed, and they're going to say, hey, what about our guy, David Benavidez? When are you going to fight him, even though Benavidez is much taller than Canelo and is now fighting at 175 pounds? Right? Gervonta Davis is finding this out the hard way. Right? Lamont Roach looked good. I thought Lamont Roach won the fight, but let's be clear here. Right? Davis, is hanging in there. Davis is winning his share of the rounds. I'm not saying Davis won the fight on my scorecard. Right? I'm not saying Davis taking a knee shouldn't have been a 10-8 round. Right? But the bottom line is Davis took the fight. Davis didn't fall down in the first round or the second round or the third round. Davis was spirited. Davis went the distance. It's not enough for fans. Right? Fans are saying, hey, how is this performance going to measure up against Shakur Stevenson? Against Keyshawn Davis? Right? Hell, against Lomachenko? Right? People are looking at that Gervonta Davis resume, and they're saying, well, wait a moment. Who exactly has he fought? Right? Why am I naming prominent names, including the names of some unbeaten fighters in Davis's division? And yet, there not only hasn't been the fight with Davis, one's not even scheduled. Right? This isn't like Bivol Beterbiev where you knew, they're going to fight in a few months. Right? That fight is scheduled. No. The Davis situation has people asking a real foundational question. Is this guy the king? Can you be the king based on catchweight fights against Ryan Garcia? Right? Fights against Mario Barrios, when you're not fighting the guys at 135 or the guys at 140. So let's look at the heavyweight division. Let's look at somebody who's doing it in reverse. Right, folks? Joe Parker is on a run, and it's spectacular. Right? Zhili Zhang, southpaw, that's important for this conversation. Deontay Wilder, 5-year heavyweight champion, one of the hardest punchers still in the entire world of boxing. right? We can say at heavyweight, hell, we can say pound for pound. Because how many guys crumble opponents like Deontay Wilder has? Then, of course, he signs to fight who? One of the reigning heavyweight champions, Daniel DuBois. If that's not challenging enough, when DuBois can't make fight day, there's Parker in against Martin Bakole. Folks, this guy is systematically taking out the big bad wolves of the heavyweight division. Well, now a sanctioning body has said to its champion, Alexander Usyk, that Joe Parker is his mandatory. Folks, this is going to be difficult for Alexander Usyk. Right? Understand, he comes into the heavyweight division. You have a bigger guy who Parker has a coordination gap advantage on. Right? He fights Anthony Joshua. You see the coordination gap. Right? Let's be real, AJ Nation. Usyk is more fluid than Anthony Joshua. Right? Usyk harder to find than Anthony Joshua. Usyk looked like he could pick spots to go to and get there faster than Anthony Joshua. The 12th round, to me, is the best round of their two-fight series. The smaller guy opens up, and you understood. Anthony Joshua wasn't there thinking, oh, great, finally this dude opens up. Let me go for mine. Let me close this show. No, Anthony Joshua is holding on, getting battered. Who's over by the ropes at the end of the fight? Folks, it's Anthony Joshua, not Usyk. Usyk's good fortune continued. He got to fight Tyson Fury. Right now, let's be real here. There's a coordination gap with Tyson Fury. Right? Fury does better against bigger guys who don't move as well as him. So, of course, here again, Usyk getting the spots before Fury. Usyk doling out punishment, hard to find in the ring. Right? Usyk looked a little bit clunky, a little bit robotic. Against Alexander Usyk, you didn't get the feeling that Tyson Fury had the foot speed to just bum rush Usyk and get him over by the ropes to make size a factor. Right, let me say this too. Usyk pivots. He fights Daniel DuBois. Right now, let's face it, DuBois gifted with both hands in terms of power, but not the smoothest boxer out there. Right? He was outboxed by Joe Joyce, for crying out loud, before he ever hops in the ring with Alexander Usyk. Right? DuBois is the young guy where you see the potential, but he doesn't quite have it all together. Right? His defense has problems. He's been riddled with the jab in more than one fight. Right? The Joe Joyce fight. The Alexander Usyk fight. Right? DuBois is a guy who does better if you're primarily a front foot heavy opponent. Right? Jarrell Miller. And you're insisting on walking forward, thinking you're going to intimidate power punching Daniel DuBois. You understand that's not the Usyk style. Usyk circling him, Usyk's peppering him with a jab. DuBois never quite figures it out. Well, folks, now style-wise, you have a nightmare for Alexander Usyk. You have a guy who has a punch. Joe Parker has a punch. But understand, Usyk, in my opinion, who's typically the better athlete in the fight, does not have a coordination gap on Joe Parker. Right? Parker also doesn't need a stoppage to win the fight. This is not Daniel DuBois. Right? No, Parker is a guy who can box with you. Right? Parker's not there trying to knock out Zhilei Zhang. He's boxing with Zhilei Zhang. Right? Also, Parker has been through a lot. Right? Parker got stopped by Joe Joyce. Let's say that up front. Right? Parker was unbeaten fighting another fellow champ, and he lost that big match to Anthony Joshua. Parker knocked down by Zhilei Zhang not once but twice. Right? Had to get off the canvas to make it through that fight. In interviews, when Parker is asked who has hit him the hardest, he mentions Zhilei Zhang. You couldn't tell it watching that fight. Right? Parker has the poker face. In other words, Parker gets hit, he's dropped, he's thinking to himself, man, that's the hardest I've been hit. And what does he do? He gets back up. He goes on to win the fight on the scorecards. Folks, I know there's a group out there who seem to believe that I feel that most of the heavyweight division can beat Alexander Usyk. I don't. Right? I picked Usyk over Anthony Joshua. I said Usyk was the betting side of the play the first fight against Tyson Fury. I did think Tyson Fury would do better the second fight, and he did not. Right? Let's just say an Usyk-Parker fight is a problem. It's a problem for Usyk because those moments when Usyk could just move away from Tyson Fury, when Usyk could just move away from Anthony Joshua, folks, he's not going to have those moments here. Right? He's just not. He'll be fighting another guy with great stamina. Right? The Zhilei Zhang fight goes 12 rounds. The Deontay Wilder fight goes 12 rounds. The only reason Parker isn't able to go the distance against Martin Bakole is Bakole could not last past 2 rounds. Right? I feel that the public right now is in love with Alexander Usyk. And who could blame them? Right? Olympic gold medalist, undisputed at cruiser. He comes up to heavy. He doesn't come in the back door, right? This is the guy fighting AJ, Olympic gold medalist. This is the guy fighting an unbeaten Tyson Fury, right? This is a guy who has already beaten, think about it, the guy who holds one of the belts at heavyweight in Daniel DuBois, right? You can say a lot about Usyk, but this is a guy who came in the division in the front door and started beating guys. He's won some big fights where he was the underdog. That first AJ fight. Understand, too, Usyk's a guy fighting on the road. Right? He's beating guys in their home country. So Usyk's a bad man. So, too, is Joe Parker. Parker himself is a former heavyweight champion. Right? When the line comes out, I'm going to be early. I'm not expecting Alexander Usyk to take the fight. I don't think the public knows how dangerous Joe Parker is. Right? I'm not saying Parker wins the fight. What I'm saying is something different. He's going to be the betting side of the play. In other words, you're going to see some odds and then you're going to say, what? I'm getting Joe Parker above a plus 150? Who made these odds? Right? And, of course, the guy who Parker will be fighting isn't a knockout puncher. Let me repeat that. He isn't a knockout puncher at heavyweight. I understand. Usyk stopped Daniel DuBois. Right? He didn't stop AJ. 24 rounds. He didn't stop Tyson Fury. We remember Tyson Fury getting a count. Certainly the 9th round of the first fight is a very memorable fight in Fury's career and Usyk's career. But then Tyson Fury shook it off. Tyson Fury was able to go the distance. Now, Joe Parker, it'll be interesting. Usyk doesn't have the power to play Joe Joyce. This isn't going to be the big guy who's going to say, hey, to hell with your athletic edge. I'm just going to be walking in the pocket. I'm going to be throwing haymakers. You're going to have to deal with my size. You're going to have to deal with my power. You're going to have to give me a reason to stop throwing power shots. Right? No. What's going to happen here? What's going to happen here is going to be very different. Right? Very different. Usyk's going to pivot away from the pocket, and Joe Parker's going to pivot with him. You want to see a fight where Joe Parker is on his front foot, chasing down a guy who, in my opinion, has some of the best footwork in the heavyweight division? Look at Joe Parker against Hughie Fury. Right? Parker is two-handed. Parker, when he was younger, had some hard luck fights. Right? He has Dillian Whyte out on his feet. Unfortunately, it's the 12th round. Unfortunately, time ran out on him. Right? The AJ fight, he's fighting two men. His idea on how to fight AJ was to come inside on AJ. Get inside of AJ's long arms and power. The referee kept pushing him back. The referee would not allow him to fight inside. So you're dealing with an underrated guy on a Sonny Liston type run as a contender, right? And just understand that Usyk's going to be overrated for the fight. If I'm on Team Usyk right now, I'm saying, hey, let's take the rematch against DuBois. We've already fought and beaten him. He didn't make it to the end of the fight against us. Right? Let's sell this to the public as we're fighting another fellow champ. If the WBO strips me of that portion of the heavyweight title, okay, fine. I've picked up DuBois' portion. In actuality, it'll be a dodge. Right? As I said before, he's already beaten DuBois. Right? If he wants to prove that he's the baddest man in the heavyweight division, with Fury retired, with AJ coming off a loss, right? With DuBois having already lost to Usyk, it seems to me that the way to prove that is by either fighting Ajit Kabayel, another guy who should be able to move with Usyk, right? A guy who is, might not even be concerned too much about Usyk being a southpaw because Kabayel's going to be going to the body, right? If Usyk is just about fighting the best, Kabayel and Joe Parker would give him all he could handle. Right? I'm expecting a pivot to Daniel DuBois. Don't fall in love with the belt. Right? We all want to worship the champion. Right? Who's the baddest man in the room? It's the heavyweight champion. We all understand that. Right? You don't say, who's the baddest man in the room? It's the mandatory contender. Or it's the guy ranked third in the world. But style-wise, you understand. Usyk feasts on sluggers who can't really follow him, who aren't as agile as him, who don't have his stamina, who can't figure out how to duck away from his jab, right? Who are busy playing let me replace my trainer and are spending time in camp learning who their trainer is rather than preparing to fight him. But against a Joe Joyce, a Joe Parker, and an Ajit Kabayel, what happens if a 38-year-old suddenly finds himself in with a younger lion, right? The other guys are in their 30s, but hell, they're younger than Usyk. A younger lion who is not convinced, and I mean this, not convinced that they aren't the better athlete in the ring. Right? Let me say, too, Kabayel's really interesting. You know, you look at Beterbiev, and Beterbiev has given some interviews where he talks about how Usyk might be a little vulnerable to the body. Right? You see that Daniel DuBois fight. Folks, it's not just the allegedly, I'll put that in quotes, allegedly low blow that you should be concerned about. When Usyk gets off the canvas, look at the film. Right? DuBois comes over, and this is after Usyk has several minutes of break. Right? When Usyk gets off the canvas, DuBois goes over, and DuBois actually tries to throw some body shots. Right? One wonders why he doesn't keep it up. He lands some body shots on Usyk that are clearly legal. And Usyk's midsection is so sore that he turns to the referee and he starts complaining about legal shots to the body. Right, folks? I believe he was so sore he didn't know where the punches were landing. Right, this is like Romain Stavern getting knocked out by Deontay Wilder and then in a post-fight interview complaining that he was hit in the back of the head. Right? Maybe the canvas hit him in the back of the head when he hit the canvas, but it wasn't Deontay Wilder. I don't think Usyk knows where he was getting hit, other than the shots were, in the body area. So Ajit Kabayel, a body hunter, has to be looking at the tapes. I'm sure that sequence in the DuBois fight has his attention. Even the Fury rematch. Fury lands some body shots and they seem to freeze Alexander Usyk. Right, folks? I'm just saying here. Usyk's going to have to do a tap dance to avoid these men. Joe Parker would give him a tough time. Ajit Kabayel would give him a tough time. We, the public, likely know Daniel DuBois more than we know the other two guys, right? Because DuBois fought in front of 80-odd thousand people against the heavyweight division's cash cow, and that is still Anthony Joshua, right? So if I'm 38, I'm already a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. I want to cash a few more checks before I leave the sport. And I know the public knows Daniel DuBois. That's the guy I fight. Right? But we're not the public here. We're the boxing hardcore. Right? If DuBois' respiratory problem KOs him in his next fight, right, we should demand fights against current WBO mandatory Joe Parker and Ajit Kabayel. Right? Styles make fights. It's not a matter of looking at size and saying, oh man, Tyson Fury has the size and he's skilled. Right? The question is, the man he's fighting, can Fury find him? Can Fury read the angles? Right? Here, I'm just saying, if we're going to be real, and we're going to say, who would give Alexander Usyk a hard time at heavyweight? Right? Because no one's unbeatable. You see someone who looks unbeatable, Mike Tyson, and he ends up getting iced by Buster Douglas. Right? That's the history of the heavyweight division. George Foreman was supposed to rule the 1970s. When Foreman became champion after destroying Joe Frazier, I'm telling you, people were afraid for Ali's health in that Rumble in the Jungle. Ali beats Foreman once, never gives him a rematch. Right? Think about it. All I'm saying is these unbeatable fighters find a way to lose. Joe Louis, supposed to be the future. KO'd by Max Schmeling, right, in the United States. That's the nature of boxing. Usyk needs to avoid Parker and Ajit Kabayel. Let me just say it here. I know it's counterintuitive. Both of those guys are the betting side of the play, right? You're going to get odds. You're going to be thinking, with Ajit Kabayel, wow, I saw Joe Parker beat Zhilei Zhang, but not like this, right? Stoppage, Not only that, it's a tribute to Zhilei Zhang that while he's getting shelled in a fight, he drops Ajit Kabayel. Let me say this too. Some guys have been losing who should remain in the mix, right? Think about it. I'm here naming two guys as serious opponents for Alexander Usyk, and they've both been dropped by Zhilei Zhang, right? Joe Parker dropped twice. Kabayel dropped once. And understand, I believe Kabayel's dropped in the 5th round. Right? So this heavyweight division is dangerous. Just understand, the guys who can move with Alexander Usyk are going to be extremely dangerous to him. Joe Parker's a former heavyweight champ. Folks, he's fought A-listers. Right? His current streak has him beating Zhilei Zhang, Deontay Wilder, and Martin Bakole, right? Keep in mind, with Kabayel, folks, he's unbeaten. He's coming off a knockout victory over Zhilei Zhang. How did he beat Zhang? Think about it. Zhang's a slugger. Zhang's a southpaw. He's a southpaw, just like Usyk. Kabayel beats him on his front foot, going to Zhang's body. In the comment section of this YouTube video, tell us, why can't he do that against Alexander Usyk? I look forward to your comments. Thanks for stopping by.